It's a full moon party in Thailand with a surprise cameo. Let's talk about episode 5 of the White Lotus. Hey everyone, John Lunsford here, and we are in the back half of season 3 of the White Lotus as episode 5 takes us through many phases of the full moon party as the episode is titled. It starts with Gaitok realizing that Timothy did indeed steal the gun, not that that was really any surprise to us, the audience. Timothy sits at dinner thinking about all the things wrong in life as Piper tells her parents finally that she wants to stay in Thailand and that she duped them into coming so that she could visit the meditation center she wants to live at. Gaitok, meanwhile, is on the prowl, keeping an eye on Timothy and the other on Mook as she continues to go full Lisa and perform on stage. We get a little more Fabian in this episode as well, and I'm glad they're finally involving the manager a bit more as they were integral parts of the story in the first 2 seasons, especially the first season. He asks Gaitok, hey, what are you doing away from your posts? But he doesn't want to interfere with love, although we know Gaitok is actually looking for Timothy, but he says, okay, you can watch Mook perform, but then get back to your post. Gaitok ends up being such a pushover when he finally confronts Timothy about the gun. Timothy says, I don't know what you're talking about, and Gaitok's just like, oh, okay, and leaves. We know you know he took it, so go do something about it. I'm still on board with Gaitok finally snapping at the end of the season, but we'll see. Meanwhile, the young Ratliff boys are trying to become young Ratliff men with Chloe and Chelsea. Chelsea does not want to cheat on Rick and is so worried about him in Bangkok, while Chloe doesn't really seem to care that Greg may kill her, and that's her words, not mine. She wants to cheat on him anyway. Chloe gives drugs to the group, and it leads to a wild night, including the brothers finally going full Targaryen and making out with each other. I told you it was going to happen. I've watched too much Game of Thrones. They give off major Targaryen vibes, if you know what I mean. And while Chelsea is partying with the Ratliff boys and Chloe, Rick goes into Bangkok and finally lets his story play out a little more. I thought he may finally run into Jim Hollinger, but instead, he meets with an old friend named Frank, played by Sam Rockwell. For those that don't know, Sam Rockwell and Leslie Bibb, who plays Kate in the girls group, which we'll get to in a second, have been partners since 2007, and they've actually been in a couple of things together as well. He and Walton Goggins are also friends in real life, so it was a natural fit for him to appear in the story. Frank gives an impressive, albeit very graphic, monologue about what he's been up to in Thailand since he and Rick last saw each other, leading to a million great Rick memes. We also see that Sam Rockwell will be a part of it even more as he brings a gun to Rick, and Rick asks him to keep the following night free. And in the look ahead, we see that he is in next week's episode as well. Speaking of Kate, she tries to be a party pooper all night for the group of girls as they party at a nightclub with Valentin, Alexei, and Vlad. They end up leaving because a group of Russian girls show up and start yelling at Alexei and Vlad, and they decide to take the party back to the resort instead. As the boys leave, they invite the girls to a Mai Tai match the following day. We've also seen Gaitok get invited to the match as well. It seems like things may converge at that match in the penultimate episode before the finale, the way things are going, because we don't really see it in the look ahead. Maybe that's what Gaitok and Mook's date ends up being. Who knows? It also still seems that Valentin, Alexei, and Vlad are the robbers as well. Valentin was distracting Gaitok, not that Gaitok would have done anything about it, and the other 2 are the ones that robbed the hotel. On top of all of that, the last bit we see of the girl's story is that Valentin comes back after the party to sleep with Jaclyn, not Laurie. Kate was uncomfortable with it all to begin with, and Laurie is the one that was single and they're trying to hook up with Valentin, so this is going to end up blowing up, I'm sure. I've seen people on Reddit say that, hey, maybe it was caught on camera as blackmail since Jaclyn is a famous TV actress, so we'll see. The girls are clearly starting to fight with each other in the look ahead, so who knows what will actually happen. The episode ends back on Timothy with the gun as he writes a note saying, I'm so sorry, I love you all, and he's getting ready to use it when Victoria shows up, and he stops right before he does it. Maybe it's good she doesn't have the lorazepam to go to sleep because she was awake to stop him from doing it. He hides the gun, admits that stress is getting to him, and Victoria says, hey, look, you've done enough with your life. You've been successful. Then after a whole talk about the religion with Piper at dinner that Timothy largely stayed out of and didn't really seem to care about because of his other issues, Timothy decides to actually pray and ask what to do. We do have a small Belinda-Greg storyline update kind of mixed in, but Greg is actually absent this episode. I guess he's still at his home plotting. Belinda confides in Fabian, the manager, that Greg is responsible for Tanya's death and wants to call the police on him, but Fabian refuses to without any proof. He also keeps calling Greg a guest. So is his house considered part of the resort? They made it very clear that the resort and its amenities are very exclusive and for resort guests only, as we heard at the pool next door when Valentin sent the girls over. I'm confused on his relationship with the resort itself. He obviously likes going to White Lotus resorts. He's been at 3 of them now across Hawaii, Italy, and Thailand, so who knows. Belinda also says it was last summer when Tanya was killed, so I assume now it's been about a year since White Lotus Season 2 instead of 2 years, like I thought it was last week. She also confides in Porn Chai, which is a great name, by the way, about it all, and he promises to protect her, and they smooch. So she has a new boyfriend that I guess if she makes it out alive, maybe he'll go back to Hawaii with her. Who knows? We're also still waiting on her son to arrive, but it does look like he finally gets there in the episode 6 look ahead, so that storyline can finally start to play out. As for Greg and the look ahead, he says he needs to take care of something to Chloe and that he needs her help with it. I assume that means for Belinda, but then it shows a scene of Chloe telling Saxon he knows about you. It could be a misdirection, especially since Saxon wasn't actually the one that ended up making a move on Chloe. She went for Jaclyn instead, and Saxon went after Chelsea because she was harder to get. I'm also on the idea that Greg and Timothy's paths may have crossed in the past when they didn't necessarily know it while sitting face to face. Greg has been researching a lot, so there could be some sort of business play here too with Greg on top of what we already know about Timothy. Because the one thing I keep coming back to as Timothy frets over all of his issues at work back home is Saxon works there too. So how is he going to ultimately end up getting caught in all this? So with 3 episodes left, I'm still on the train that Gaitok and or the Hollinger's bodyguards are what caused the shootout. But I'm almost leaning now that maybe Timothy does make it out alive and just decides to pay the piper, which is his daughter's name, and go to jail. Maybe Saxon gets involved instead, feeling that he has to save his dad or something, and he gets killed. Who knows? I could also see Rick doing something stupid that ultimately leads to the shootout. Maybe he misses his chance in Bangkok and brings it all back to the White Lotus, and that could still involve the bodyguards. The next big point of emphasis seems to be the fight, since there may be another convergence of storylines. We've seen multiple people be invited to the fight. Maybe the stories go back on their own next week and then converge again in episode 7 before the big finale. We'll see. So what do you think of episode 5 of season 3 of The White Lotus? Let me know in the comments. Make sure to like this video and subscribe for more White Lotus recaps, and we'll review the whole season, more movie reviews, TV reviews, and more.